Today, I'd like for us to discuss the marketing strategy development process. Let's say you just got hired as a product marketing manager in a Web3 company. You find out that one of the first things, in fact, if not the first thing you get to do is develop a marketing strategy. All right. And oftentimes it can be quite confusing in regard to where to start. All right, especially given that there are so many pieces of information out there on how to go about it. What I'm going to do in today's video is provide you with a very simple framework, what you can otherwise refer to as a cheat sheet on how to go about that. Now, having said that, before we get right into the 7 steps involved in the marketing strategy development process, there is something I would like for you to have in mind. All right. I want you to think of your marketing plan or strategy as a puzzle where every part eventually gets to fit. Like someone rightly said, marketing must, or a marketing plan rather, must be treated as a circular function. By that, every part of your marketing plan has to be internally consistent and mutually supportive of your marketing objective. What this simply means is this: you want to ensure that you are always revisiting every part of your marketing plan or strategy, and you are always extending it. All right. We are simply talking about revision and extension to ensure that you get to that point where everything fits in with one another. Now, what are the 7 steps involved in the marketing strategy development process? The first step is what we refer to as the consumer analysis. And of course, this is the very important place to start. Here is where you begin to ask questions in regard with who exactly your target market is. Who are you trying to sell? All right. There is consumer analysis as the first step. Then there is market analysis. At this point, of course, this is the second step. This is where you begin to ask questions in regard with the market size. Now, you are moving a step away from looking at just the consumer as a segment to looking at the general market. Here you consider the market size, the market opportunities, the market shares, the market trends. After you are done with your market analysis, all right, you want to move on to reviewing of the competition and self. All right, you want to look at the opportunities available to your competitors. What are they doing well? What are their strengths? What are their weaknesses? And you want to also introspect and ask yourself, what exactly are we doing well in my company? All right, what are our strengths and what are the opportunities available to us? And this is what we otherwise refer to as your SWOT analysis, where you identify the weaknesses available to you, the weaknesses in regard with your competitors, the strengths available to you, the strengths in regard with your competitor. You want to identify their opportunities, your own opportunities. You want to identify the threats to your own opportunities. All right. And once you're done reviewing the competition and self, you want to jump right away into what you would call a review of the distribution channels. It's not just enough to know who you're selling to, all right, who they are. It's also important you understand where they are, all right. And your distribution channel analysis is what really helps you to know or find who they are, where they are rather. And you find out that ultimately this is going to help you when you begin to try to reach them. And as soon as you're done with the distribution channel analysis, it's important you move right away into developing a preliminary marketing mix. I don't think I need to remind you that as a product marketing manager, one of your core responsibilities would be to work out pricing model, the right pricing model for your product, all right, or whatever it is your company offers. And here it falls under the marketing mix, all right. In this step where you develop a preliminary marketing mix, you begin to talk about the price, you talk about whatever pricing model you might want to adopt. All right. This is where you could decide to use the cost plus pricing model, or meet the competition pricing model, or even use variable pricing. All right. Then there's also it's also at this point you consider promotion. What exactly would your promotional strategies be? And also at this point is where you begin to consider a concept called place. And here you also look at product features. All right. while developing this preliminary marketing mix. And as soon as you're done with this, you want to move right away in, which is step 6, by the way, into evaluating the economics of the market. At this point, what you're basically talking about is what exactly, at what point rather, are we going to break even in the marketplace. This is where you get to do your break even analysis. This is where you also get to consider or determine the, what's it called, average acquisition cost. How much it's going to cost to acquire a new user in regard with your product. It's also at this point that you begin to look at the entire budget. Do we have the budget to fund our marketing strategy? Do we need to adjust anything? This is also the point where you get to consider what your return on investment will look like. All right, it's at the point of evaluating the economics of the market. And eventually, step 7 would be going back to steps 1 to 6, revising the whole thing and extending it. And your goal ultimately is to come to that point where you can boast and say, indeed, I have a circular marketing plan. In other words, a marketing plan or strategy where all the units are internally consistent, all right, with one another and mutually supportive of the overall marketing objective. Now, the last thing I'm going to say is this. The thing is, coming up with a marketing strategy as a product marketing manager can be quite daunting, I understand. And which explains why I've used this opportunity to simplify it for you. Once you have, or you have armed yourself with these 7 steps I listed, I can promise you that it would be easier for you as you go along the way.